Right, Rick, the internet and phone lines were down in Goshen for several hours, but power has since been restored. Your votes casted like the ones here at Northside Gym, though, were not impacted. Take a look behind me, a few voters out here. Candidates Dan Beecher and Tim Neese have been preparing for this day for months. Poll workers here at Northside Gym tell me that they've had a pretty steady stream of people in here all afternoon, but they too have noticed fewer numbers. Now, I also just heard back from voting center officials in Elkhart County who told me that they've had just over 5,000 people vote in this year's election. Now, coming up at 6, I'll show you how this year's numbers compare to the last primary election in 2011.
WSBT 22 Suzanne Spencer is at Northside Gym in Elkhart. And Suzanne, a big concern for both candidates is voter turnout.
That's right. They tell me that just over 5,200 people voted in this year's election in Elkhart. That reflects what poll workers told me here at Northside Gym, that last year lines were much longer for the general election wrapped around the building here at Northside Gym. But even they said far fewer people are showing up this year. In fact, fewer people in Elkhart have voted in the primary the past 3 elections. Well, Jennifer, was certainly the race everyone in Elkhart was keeping their eye on, but it wasn't quite as close as many people anticipated. Tim Neese ousted his opponent Dan Beecher by more than 1,000 votes. Neese was welcomed by supporters at Antonio's in Elkhart, many from his campaign, but also several people from the community. He acknowledged that he's ready to face challenger Dick Moore in the general election this November.
We're going to talk about open door government, we're going to talk about transparency, we're going to talk about a police and merit board, we're going to talk about economic development. One thing that I'm thinking about right now is I have 2 precious granddaughters and I want to hug both of them and play with them. I have not neglected them, but I haven't spent as much time with them that I would like to.
Perhaps one of the more interesting parts of this race is that Neese won this race in the primary by 1,700 votes. Democratic candidate, though, Dick Moore, who's running for his 3rd term, won with just over 600 votes. That means we'll certainly see a very interesting race come November. I did talk with Dan Beecher on the phone after the race. He said obviously did not end up as he anticipated. He was headed home shortly after 9 o'clock to spend the evening with his family. Reporting live in downtown Elkhart, Suzanne Spencer, WSBT 22 News. All eyes were on the Republican race, Jennifer. Many thought it would be a closer race than it actually was. Neese pretty much demolished his candidate 73% to 20% in that overall vote. But another interesting part about this whole race, Neese brought in a little over 1,700 votes, and Democratic Mayor Dick Moore brought in just over 700. So that will definitely be an interesting race to follow as we make our way into November. Neese was greeted with open arms and smiles at Antonio's in Elkhart. He told supporters that he believes his grassroots efforts of knocking on doors for months worked. He said he's looking forward to his challenger, Mayor Dick Moore, come November. He says this day has been years in the making.
We're going to talk about open door government, we're going to talk about transparency, we're going to talk about a police and merit board, we're going to talk about economic development. One thing that I'm thinking about right now is I have 2 precious granddaughters and I want to hug both of them and play with them. I have not neglected them, but I haven't spent as much time with them that I would like to.
I did talk with Dan Beecher shortly after the outcome of the race. He was headed home about 9 o'clock to spend some time with his family. He did say he was disappointed in the outcome of the race. Tim Neese will face off against Democratic incumbent Dick Moore in November. Reporting live in Elkhart, Suzanne Spencer, WSBT 22 News.